We actually have a very detailed selection process, and I think a process that we've put in place over time and fine-tuned over time. So immediately upon receiving resumes from CFS, Anastasia, who's the case manager, who is the point of contact for our internship program, my partner and I will get together, go over the resumes, rank them in the order of skills that we believe will best serve us. It's not necessarily about the GPA or anything in particular. We look at the whole resume and decide which of the group are the most suited to our specific style. And then we choose 2 to 3 days a week where we have large blocks of time, and then try to call the interns in together on those days. We try to do 30-minute interviews with about 15 minutes in between, just so that we have time in case we want to ask extra questions, and so that they're not running into each other, because that could sometimes be daunting for them as they're interviewing. And after the interview, we immediately give a number rating on a scale of 10. We each rate independently, and that number comes partially from the interview and partially from a writing sample that we ask each intern to bring to the interview. Writing is very, very important to us and to the work that we do. So with that in mind, we evaluate the writing sample almost as equally as the interview itself.
We've got an intern scorecard and a pool of questions that focus on very specific aspects of how we want to evaluate that candidate. So how much they know about private equity. So what is their interest? What are their hopes and dreams 5 and 10 years from now? So what is their motivating influence to getting a career or internship in private equity? And then we ask questions that challenge their critical thinking skills. And so there's a pool bank of questions that we try to source from. And then we plot out how we feel like those interns did on those interview questions.
Our selection process for the internship for CFS and all other internships actually begins before the interns. We utilize a methodology from Culture Index, which is a way of understanding what's required of the individual, what's required of the position, and trying to match it with potential candidates before we even screen for the actual individual. And so it begins at that process using that type of analysis. Then once we have an understanding of the role and a good fit for that role, for all potential candidates, we ask them to complete a personality assessment. Once that assessment is complete, we meet with the final candidates.
I like to see candidates with an interest in anything heavily related to writing, research. I'm less interested in the subject areas that they're pursuing and more in the type of work that those subject areas require.
We review all resumes, no matter what, all resumes. We look through them as a whole team, and we pick out individuals that have experience with economic development, experience with research, experience with business development, and we also specifically look for different tools that they have worked with in the past. And then also, a lot of the resumes have what are their interests. We also look at that too. And then we bring them in for an interview, and we do all the team interviews them. So they do one-on-one, and we do group interviews. And just for personality, focusing, we are such a small, tight group, and their skills and experience, and then we make our decisions.
I think for an intern, it makes more sense not even to do a phone screen if possible. Just bring them in, get to know them, get a sense, because it's really the kind of person that's going to be successful here is someone who's got a positive attitude, willing to jump in, confident, comfortable, making phone calls and interacting with both the staff and then our job seekers. Someone who's got multicultural experience is really helpful.
We usually get a batch of resumes and applicants from Northwestern. We review all the resumes. I have a dedicated team to also help me out with that. And once we do narrow it down to at least a dozen or so, we start the interview process. With that comes 2 phone interviews, and all the interns, they speak with 2 different full-time consultants. So they get to know a little bit more about the internship, as well as ask about the daily task, how work is delegated, and a little bit more about the program outside of what I get into.
They're very talented kids, and What we do try to do is, based on the resume, really identify, do we think they would have interest in this field, and would they be a good fit, right? We actually spend a lot of time looking at their hobbies and extracurricular activities, and to see if that might be a match. And then we do Skype interviews, and actually it starts with my associate. One of our associates and analysts will do a number of phone and Skype interviews, and then narrow it down to maybe two or three interns, and we may take 1 or 2 interns.
What we look for is somebody who we think will really fit in well and who will really take with what we give them and run with it. And then so after that phone screen, they'll move on to the in-person interview. So they'll actually come on site to AGA, typically on a Friday when we're all here. So they get to see a little bit of the company culture. And basically we'll have 2 people sit down with them, talk to them. It can range anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. And then after that point, we'll look at the candidates and determine who's the best fit for the team. Typically, we'll have at least 3 to 4 people talk to an individual candidate, just so not only can they meet the team, but we can meet them as well.